Inconsistent.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to GED Squared Podcast. Today we have a special guest. He's the host of Bang 23 Podcast. His name is Chris. Chris, welcome to the show.
Well, thank y'all for having me.
I need Chris energy for a Saturday
I know,
morning.
seriously.
I
right
need
now,
Chris energy.
I need another cup of coffee.
We're not prepared.
That's the
We're never
secret. It's
prepared.
coffee. But here's the thing. I do coffee enemas, bro. Straight up the other hole, man. That's the way you do it. Have you ever tried?
No, I never tried.
Supposedly, when you do things that way, it's like instant.
I heard that about alcohol.
That you put a
Yeah,
drop
they
of
say-
alcohol and you're drunk all of a sudden.
If you have an alcohol suppository, you will die.
Yeah,
You will die.
you will die. What? Imagine being drunk to death. What that's like?
Well, Google remind me
Amazing.
not to do that tonight. Want to last a little longer.
All right. So what's up, Chris? How did you get started podcasting?
Okay, so of course it's a long story for everybody, right? And I hate the people who always say everyone has a podcast now, and that made me not do it, right? Because everyone's like, everyone has a podcast, every weirdo has a podcast. Four things happened. The first thing, by the way, I'm a nerd. I work in tech, right? I'm a coder. So I was at a meeting and my manager had said this. He said, "Man, I tell you what, whenever it comes to talking, I don't think I've heard anybody better than Chris." And honestly, I thought about that shit for over a month. I thought about this for so long. I was like, whoa, no one's ever told me that. Second thing that happened, I was listening to a podcast and this guy gave out some advice. He said, listen, my advice to young people is find something that you're reasonably good at and just go for it. Just fuck it. See what happens. Third thing that happened was that I realized that there's a lot of really, really, really big podcasters out there that are lame as hell. Like they are terrible. Like they are so boring, but they make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars podcasting. And I forgot the fourth thing, but essentially that is what happened to me.
It was especially the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Specifically that
those
episode.
things added up, and I was like, you know what? Let's just see. Oh yeah, I love talking to people. Like I genuinely enjoy talking to people. I would do it for free, and so I'm like, why not?
Yeah. And how long you been doing it for?
About a year.
About a year. Okay. All
Okay.
right, nice. Yeah. We actually just revamped this podcast. We had our previous podcast was The Basement and Why, and we did that for 7 years?
Like, yeah, but you got to subtract 2.5.
Yeah, because of COVID and all that.
COVID.
Yeah, a lot of things happened.
Which makes no sense because that's the time we should have been hitting it hard.
Yeah.
Because everybody's stuck at home.
Why did
doing
y'all stop
nothing.
during COVID?
I know me personally. I have kids, so I had to like really just stay at home with them and do stuff with them. So, and then work kind of really took off. But I actually worked more during COVID than I did outside of COVID. I worked more because I work for the I work for the city in New York. So we were like on level, DEF CON. Everybody was all hands on deck, no days off. We got lots going on. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
for me,
were you doing? Like what ramped up over there? Because it seemed like a lot of businesses shut down and stuff.
You know what
so
it was?
The
A lot of
businesses went down, but government went up.
So a lot of people got sick, so they couldn't make it to work. So we had to work extra to cover. And at the time when people were getting sick, nobody really knew anything about COVID. So we were kind of like, just stay home, go to the hospital, like don't come into work. So as people were getting sick, we started losing more and more people. And the people that didn't get sick, they were just keeping us on more and more.
So your numbers got diminished. So you had to cover more
We
shifts.
had to cover more shifts, yeah.
So, but because in COVID, garbage still, got collected, right? It slowed down though.
Well, there's still a lot of garbage. I work for the Department of Sanitation, so I work for garbage. So we got, it was all right. It got less street cleaning, more house garbage because people are staying at home all day. They're just buying. You see a lot of Amazon, a lot of boxes because people getting things delivered.
Yeah. I can't believe we went through that. It still feels like a long distance story that I'm already telling my children. I was alive during the time.
Yo, I was just talking to somebody yesterday. She works for a school. She's like, I think she's a speech therapist in the school. So she deals with like kids with special needs, I guess. So she said a few things in the past few years she noticed is that one, the cases or the kids that are diagnosed have shot up dramatically. and the kids are behaving. Their behavior is way bad. Like they're not paying attention. They're running up and down the hall. They're climbing. She's kind of also puts that on COVID as well, because she's like, there was a few years in there where they didn't socialize, and you kind of need the socialization to like for your your cognitive abilities, whatever. So she said they were lacking it. So because they were lacking it, they don't know how to behave in a public atmosphere. So when they go, now that they're in school, they're kind of all over the place. They never developed that.
That's interesting. We could go in on COVID and there are going to be movies and books and stories written about this thing for.
Well, what's interesting? In next year, actually, those kids that were born during COVID are going to join pre-K. So we're going to see in a few years from now the change in behavior in kids, and see if COVID was really the problem. Because it could be a few things. It could be the parents. Because remember, nowadays, parents are like, here, take this tablet and go play. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
So it could be just that. Rather than blaming COVID,
How do you address that as a parent, though? So let's just say that your kid is somewhat stunted socially, mentally, in whatever way. They got ADHD, and you're a parent, right? You feel compelled to do something about it. You live in the real world. Like, how do you rapidly socialize your kids?
It's rough, man. I deal with that now. One of my kids has autism, so he has a hard time socializing. So what I did was I kind of pushed him a little bit to join different kind of after school programs, and we go to church. So I connected him with the guy that does the audio visual in church. So he's teaching him how to do all that, So it kind of forced him, which is great because he went into one program. It was the theater program out of all programs. He did writing for them and drawing of storyboards. He really liked it. He made a lot of friends, and now he's doing other programs where right now he's in a farm. They have a farm in Governor's Island, which I don't even know.
Yeah, they do.
So he's doing a farming program there, and I didn't tell him to join it. Wow. He just joined it out of he likes, he's becoming more social,
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that if you could find what the kid is into and tap into that 100%, then that's a social. It's more likely that whatever he's into, there's a social. What am I trying to say? There's a social aspect or organization or activity. Yeah, exactly. An aspect to it that even in music, whatever it is, there's always a social dynamic to it that.
And what's interesting too is that talking to people that are into this kind of childhood development, they, in retrospect, now that they've learned so much from these kids, they kind of look back at the generations of that are already grown, and they're like, there's a lot of undiagnosed ADHD and autism in the adults. Yeah.
Is that why grown people are assholes? Is that why the older people they all turn into assholes? Because they have undiagnosed issues.
I'm in asshole age, and it's getting worse, and I love it. Love every fucking second of it. Yeah. It's great. Do you have any children?
That's the thing. No, not at all, dude. I'm scared of kids. I'm not responsible enough. How would you sit down and think about that? Because I'm a kid. I go 4 days in a row without seeing the sunlight and eating pizza and drinking Coke all day. If I had a kid, I feel like I would cuss him out. That's not fair.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Once you have kids, those video games they start becoming less and less.
Okay, no, explain that right now. Because me and my girl have this conversation all the time. She's like, no, I know we are lazy and not responsible, but as soon as we get a kid, we're going to just snap and become responsible. And I hear people like you say this. I hear my own family members say this. I just don't believe it. How does that work? It's like, hey, I'm a piece of shit. I have a kid and magically I'm not.
You're always going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to start right there. The piece of shit doesn't go away. It gets redefined. But I was going to say that when I saw my son come out into life, I took him home. No, I was kind of amazed, actually. And I recorded it where I didn't catch her vagina. All you see is my son coming out of an elevator. Perfect shot. But what I remember was the security of the baby, my son. They had him with the wrist thing, and it beeped if you took him anywhere. This is mine. What do you mean? But I remember going home and saying to myself, so I don't give this back? I'm responsible for this.
You kind of get hit with this weight.
What the fuck?
You get hit with this weight of responsibility right away. Like, you're like, this kid will die if I don't get it together.
This is on me.
Like, there's no parents behind me telling me what to do. Like, I gotta do this myself. Yeah, you feel that pressure.
I was like, nurse? Fuck, there's no nurse.
And it doesn't get easier. The more kids you have, it doesn't really get easier.
He has like 20, so he has way more experience than I do. And he keeps going.
Yeah, it doesn't get easier. It's always a challenge until they move out.
Keep popping them out. Like, what? Why do you keep doing it? It's like, oh, it gets harder, it gets suckier, but I keep on doing it.
I don't know how to explain it, man. It's one of those things where it's like
he doesn't know how to pull out.
It's hard. It's definitely hard.
Never seen a condom in his life.
Yeah, but there is a sense of satisfaction, I guess. I mean, obviously there's love and stuff like that, but there's something about having a kid and taking care of it that you're like, oh man, I'm accomplishing something. I'm changing the world for a better. Because I mean, obviously, if you're a bad parent, you don't feel all that. But if you really take care of your kid, you feel a sense of like, oh man, I'm gonna leave this world better than the way I got it. Because I can't be president, but at least I can do is.
Oh, stop lying! You could be president. Oh my gosh, with that big mic and that hat. Come on, man.
He got the equality.
You have a trustworthy looking head, like everything, bro. You have everything, dude. I would vote for you right now. But what happens? Because that's the thing. You're a parent, right? And you're doing your best. You're like, man, I'm pouring into this kid. But what happens if they grow up and they bomb a school?
You divorce them.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, right? You never know.
Yeah.
So you just got to take
You really think that those individuals that did those horrible crimes, you really think that their parents didn't know? As a matter of fact, there was a case where the parents got indicted or something, right? Recently.
Yeah, but think about you. I mean,
I'm a psychopath.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm also a pussy. I can't even fight. So there's, the society's safe in some ways with me.
Yeah, but I feel like you can't really know. Sometimes it's obvious, right? But then sometimes you just don't know. Some kids, think about the people we talk to on a regular basis. You're like, oh man, you believe the earth is flat or whatever?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? So many. Like, you don't even, I didn't even know this guy was like this,
Yeah, you don't know. And that's the other thing too, especially with the internet. Kids are so damn tech savvy. The internet has everything. Like, I can Google right now and I'll probably find something, how to bomb a school behind your parents' back. And they probably have like a whole freaking tutorial and stuff like that. And so that's got to be tough as a parent to deal with.
Yeah, because you hear this on the news. Like, oh, I didn't know he's such a nice guy. He's so quiet. I didn't know he was this kind of guy. You just never know. So the only thing you can do is say, hey, I tried my best, and that's all I could do.
Well, tell that to the judge now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're going to jail. Now you really
go to
can't
jail.
be president.
You go to jail. It's like,
the guy that set himself on fire, you think his parents knew?
Oh God, you keep mentioning the guy who set himself on fire. I can't get that image out of my
Is he alive? I heard he was alive or something like that.
He just died.
That can't be true.
He just died.
He just died? Yeah. That's how he wanted it.
You saw the video, you knew he wasn't going to make it. We were just talking about it.
Yeah. Well, they say too, like, even if he would have survived, because of the way his body was all burnt, he would have got an infection. And to keep that off is almost impossible. They were like,
don't you kind of have to respect him a little bit, though, for his dedication?
Yeah, but I mean, that's way more dedication than I have for anything.
I guess it all boils down to, what are you willing to die for?
Yeah.
And there's no way I'm going to die for The Simpsons.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not dying for no conspiracy theory. Yeah. I'm not dying for you.
Well, he was convinced.
And I know this nigga.
He was convinced. You know what I'm saying? He was convinced that what he was saying. I don't know if you read about the manifesto that he wrote.
A little bit. Like, educate me.
He was convinced that there's like some kind of Illuminati group, and that one of the funniest things that he said was that Harvard University was giving information to the creators of The Simpsons to write episodes about the future. Yeah. So he was convinced of this enough that he set himself on fire. Imagine that's the way you go.
Who are we to say that he's wrong? I know this sounds fucking crazy, right? This is like, like the earth is flat, all of this stuff. It sounds crazy, but there's been times in the past where we've been convinced. Listen, we bled George Washington to death because he had a cold. We were convinced. That's what the doctors say. Bleed him like a damn fish. Now, if you would have said, hey guys, stop bleeding him like a fish, you're going to kill him. You said, shut the fuck up, you conspiracy theorist. So, hey, you never know. In 50 years, it may come out hey, The Simpsons is some evil people. You never know. I just respect the dedication.
Yeah, you know what's funny? We just talked to a flat earther guy, and I was like, basically make it make sense. You know?
make it
give
make
us
sense.
a reason. And as we were talking about it, like, you know what? I can see his reason why. The science doesn't really make sense.
There's no science to make sense.
But the reason why they
But
kind of
why they
lean
believe
into it,
we covered
I get
it.
it. Okay.
We covered it.
There's an Illuminati. I get it.
Oh, so you're saying the same thing with the Illuminati?
Yeah, I mean, do you know?
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. Well, honestly, if I were to create a conspiracy theory, the Illuminati is probably what I would create, because one of the key aspects of it that everyone talks about is it's so secretive and only a small group of elites know about it, right? So you start off with that, you can make up anything, right? Because you can't know about it because it's so secretive.
It's just this
so
amorphous thing it's there. We don't see it, we don't hear it, we don't know it, but it's there. It's like ghosts in your bones.
I wish we could just convince people to get these type of dedication, like this thing ingrained in your heart about curing cancer.
I know, right? Set yourself on fire for that.
Yeah. Like, I have the cure for cancer and it's in this Google Drive. Damn it. But people don't want to release it, so I'll set myself on fire. Like, that's a beautiful thing.
Well,
but
that's another conspiracy, is that there is a cure for cancer, but they don't want to give it to us.
Well, we know there's a cure for AIDS, and
it.
look at Magic Johnson.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, definitely. There has to be a cure for AIDS. There's no doubt about it. So, what do you think there's any conspiracy theories that could be true?
Yeah, I listen. Like I said, I genuinely believe that almost any of them could be true. I only believe shit that I have like personal experience with. Here's one that like a lot of my homeboys believe. The Jews run the world. Oh my gosh, the Jews are fucking evil. Oh, these Jews, look at them. They run all the corporations. They run all the TV shows. I disagree with them because every Jewish person I've talked to is nice as shit. But I do think that there are some out there.
That's how they get you.
Exactly. That's how they get. They hug you and they stick a knife in your back. But I think almost any of them could be true. I'm the type of dude, I'm not trusting, period, point blank. You burn me once, I'm done, period. And so whenever we hear shit like, okay, we know it's a fact. The CIA, the government sold crack in Compton to fund a war. It's a fact. Boom, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with everything. Everything that like the CIA or the government tells me, like, I look at it with a grain of salt. Why? Because you fucked me. You lied to me and you fucked these people in Compton. And guess what? Compton's still fucked till today. And we know that you played a huge part in that. So I don't almost believe anything I hear. I don't have a strong conviction about any conspiracy theory, but I'm kind of like, I'm kind of suspicious of everything.
Yeah, that's true, right? So with it, that one confession with the drugs and the CIA, the FBI, that's all that was needed. That one thing makes you suspicious of everything else.
Yeah, you lied to me once. Now I can't trust you.
Lied to me once. What's the saying? Lied to me once, fool me.
Fool me, can't fool me again.
You can't fool me again, Bush.
But no, that's the other thing. Like, think about it. Think about it if you're in a relationship with a girl and you're like, hey, baby, God, dog, you so pretty. Oh, I love you. Ooh, woo, 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 woo. And then, like, come to find out she lied about her age. You've been dating for a year. She lied about her age. Immediately, I can't trust you. See you. But yet, like, these motherfuckers, like, they are hurting people. Yeah. Oh, that's another one. But it's not just the selling crack in Compton. Like, they had the MK Ultra where they tried to control people's mind with drugs. Like, this is the United States government, guys. They recruited people and tried to implement mind control. This is a fact. It's all documented. So I'm like, nah, y'all some sneaky motherfuckers. I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Watching that guy, like at the beginning, he lights like his shirt, and obviously it's gonna ignite because he has this liquid on him. And his first thing was like he does like this move, this gesture, and I'm like, he's burying the first 30 seconds of his neurons feeling the pain.
Yeah.
And then it's like he was pretty collective.
Yeah, he kind of held it together for a minute. Yeah. Well, there's a documentary, I think it's called The Bridge, where they interviewed people that survived suicide from jumping off of a bridge, and every single person that survived said the same thing. I regret it as soon as I let go.
So
As soon as I jumped, as soon as I let go, as soon as I started falling, I instantly regretted, and I thought, you know what, this wasn't worth it. I shouldn't have did this, and they survived.
you think he felt that way? That
Instantly, he must have set himself on fire, felt the pain,
That was this
and was
gesture.
like, "What am I doing? What
Do
am
you
I
think
doing?"
he felt pain? Because I heard that like when pain is so intense, sometimes like you just.
I
won't
think for the
feel it.
first few seconds, at least, he felt the pain until at least his skin got burnt off.
So they say, yeah, it's like 30 seconds or something
Yeah.
where your neurons, once they burn off, you don't have any neurons to
Sense the pain.
send the receptors back to your brain that there's pain. So yeah, once you burn your neuron receptors, there's no signal going back to your brain that you're cooking.
It's crazy because if you watch the video, there's a point where he's just laying there in pain. You can kind of see him moving still, but he's still kind of on fire. His legs are still on fire, and people just walking around him, like, turn him off! My gosh, bro,
Turn him off.
Poor guy. Take him out of his misery. What do you think would happen if a cop would have walked over and just shot him?
Oh, that would have been great.
That's a
Right?
fucking
Because
good
if it was a
question.
dog, we would have been like, "Oh, that guy's such a good guy. He took that dog out of his misery." Imagine if a cop would have been like,
cops getting charged, right? You think the cops getting charged?
in America, probably.
Half of America would have been like, he did him mercy.
Yeah, he did a mercy. Yeah, I mean, I would have felt like that. Oh, took that guy. The guy's not going to survive.
Nah.
No
I
way.
would've thought
His
that
whole
too.
body. No way.
I think the real question is, it's obvious that, right, this guy had like a deep felt belief and he wanted to like spread a certain message. He wanted to get this out here, his manifesto, his ideas. Nothing wrong with that. The question is setting yourself on fire the right way to go about it? Do you think, like, if y'all were his PR team or y'all were advising him, right, what's the best way to get your message out? Is setting yourself on fire the best, or do you think that there could have been something that would have spread it even wider?
That's a tough question because
That's a really good
people been trying different ways for so long. But setting yourself on fire is definitely not the way. And we learned this because somebody just did this recently. And the only thing I saw was people making fun of him. I didn't see anybody agreeing with him. Everybody was just making fun of him. They're like, "What an idiot! Why would he do that?" So I can see this guy not really. I don't even know if he was what was his message. I still don't know it. And I read some of his manifesto, and I'm like, I don't understand still.
That's a good point.
Like, he's trying to bring attention to this thing, but
But
everybody
he's a bad
kind of
writer.
everybody kind of heard about it, and they kind of just agree that it's not real. But setting yourself on fire is not going to bring any real attention to it.
That's the right.
But
So on that point, he's dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Did he accomplish anything?
No, he
Yeah.
definitely did. Hold on now.
Yeah, we're
Like,
talking
if
about
if he's in suicide heaven, is he like, good job,
Yeah.
suiciders?
he died for you.
We're
All right?
talking about him right now. Mission accomplished, right?
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
news outlet's talking
Oh
about him.
shit! Yeah, he got us at
He
least.
died for you.
So he didn't die for me. Stop saying that. This guy.
So yeah, that he really did accomplish. He really did spread the word. Now you can say that, hey man, maybe like articulate your manifesto better, but to go like, I guess his goal was to go viral, right? Oh, let's go viral.
At least use ChatGPT and get it right.
yeah, just do. Yeah, exactly. Just
Hey,
do.
at least make it sound coherent.
But everyone is talking about this guy right now, and
For
I
a
don't
week.
know, like
For a few
for a
days at
week,
least.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know of maybe another way to get his message out like that, unless maybe he did just kind of grind and he just kind of piped this message out to people over the course of like 10 years. Then maybe. But you're right. In a week from now, no one's gonna care.
Even then, so many people have been pushing certain agendas for so long, and we just make fun of them. Kind of.
Okay.
The kind of stuff that he believes, you kind of see even people within Congress believing it, like Marjorie Taylor Greene or something. She believes these weird conspiracies too, and nobody cares. We're just making
What a
fun of her.
great
Like,
name.
ha, yeah. We're just kind of making fun of her. Like, nobody really cares. They just think it's a joke. So this guy setting himself on fire almost feels like,
Do you think
if you're in Congress and nobody cares, imagine setting yourself on fire. Nobody really cares.
Do you think that there'll be copycats, people doing the same thing?
I think he copied somebody.
Somebody already burned themselves
Yeah, you
for
remember?
the same reason?
Not for the same reason, but to bring attention.
No, for the free.
You
For
know,
the same reason.
Remember the guy burned himself for Palestine. Free Palestine.
Well, and no, the OG was that Buddhist guy. Remember that Buddhist guy like 20, 30 years
That
ago?
was the
He
OG
sat
right
down
there.
in like a meditation stance and burned like a goddamn candle.
Yeah.
He didn't even move, right?
No, I think he just did that.
I don't think so.
I think eventually he just fell over and died.
Yeah, he
gave up the
just
ghost.
died. But that is the thing. I noticed too, whenever one of these people burn themselves on fire or they do something crazy, get a manifesto out there, I always look at like kind of the news article. The titles are always like, he used to kick dogs when he was 8. Oh, he beat up a boy when he was 12.
Yeah.
He smoked lots of marijuana. I'm like, this is like, it always seems like we try to disparage these people, and it's across news outlets. If anything, like I said, my initial impression is this guy's a fucking badass. I don't care if he's insane. He could be insane and a badass. But at least like respect this man. Maybe it's just that's what gets clicks now is talking shit on people.
I wonder if he would have got more attention if he would have just ran into somewhere guns blazing with the letters in his pocket.
You know what I would have done? I would have taken the liquid and I would have made a circle around me. Nice thick layer of flammable, whatever it was. And I would have lit that up. And I would have drawn attention, and the cops couldn't touch me or arrest me.
Yeah.
And I would have kept that circle, that ring of fire.
Kept it going.
And then until people heard me.
Said the Pledge of Allegiance in there?
To Richard Stance. To Richard.
Richard Stance.
To Richard
That's
Stance.
That's a brilliant idea, dude.
Don't listen to this podcast. Is not promoting anybody to do this dumb shit.
I heard it on a podcast.
Yes. We're doomed.
Speaking of
we have
podcast,
no money. We have no money.
Speaking of podcasts, so tell us a little bit about your podcast. What do you do exactly on your podcast?
Yeah. Bang 2-3.
I just bullshit with people like this. That's it, man. I just bullshit with people. So I just invite people on. If anybody that I find is somewhat interesting. Like, for example, today I'm releasing an episode with this chick who is a professional cuddler, a stripper, a sex worker. She sells her used underwear, and we talk about her selling her piss to a man who wanted that piss overnighted to him. And she lives in San Francisco, and her parents are very disappointed in the fact that she's not like an engineer. Instead, she's out here being a sex worker. So yeah, I just talk to people like that. I've talked to Rikers Island corrections officers. I've talked to CEOs of companies. I've talked to a guy who was in jail for 10 years for making meth, and he just got out a week before. So yeah, I just talk to people I think's cool, and I bullshit just like this, man.
She probably makes a lot of money doing all that, though.
Hell yeah, the professional cuddling part is like.
And think about it. It's, you're cuddling with somebody, they feeling things like, by the way, I'm a sex worker too. If you want to take this a step further,
here's my other business.
Here goes the other prices.
Well, no, dude, that was the thing that I found so odd about her, because whenever I talk to her, she doesn't come off as a sex worker. She doesn't come off as a stripper. She's like a nice chick, a fun, like bubbly personality chick, like really fucking cool. And because like if you talk to like a lot of these strippers or sex workers or whatever, not like I do, of course I don't, I read the news, just joking, I be in the strip club. But these strippers, they're like, they have this way about them. It's almost like they're putting you in a trance. It's almost like they just have this way, like they talk about their body kind of like a man. They talk about sex like a man. This chick was like very different. So it kind of makes it, to me, it sells her cuddling profession. Because I'm like, oh, you're not a whore. Like, I want to cuddle you. You seem like a nice girl.
So what's the craziest interview you've done?
Oh, fuck. That's a great question. Probably this dude who was a Rikers Island corrections officer. Holy shit. This guy was fucking crazy. He was telling me stories about apparently the doors in Rikers Island don't lock, how people throw piss on them, how like they're banging the corrections officers and stuff like that. That guy was crazy, and he was drunk too. So he was extra crazy. Also, the other one about my most listened to episode, oddly, was this guy who was in jail for 10 years for cooking meth. And he got out of jail and he just like recorded it on his phone. He's just like, yeah, you know, we're just talking and shit. We're talking about jail and what's it like and all of this. He tells me a story about how 5 inmates ran the train on this corrections officer and she couldn't stand up straight and she had to be taken to the hospital because they put so much pipe in her. Crazy shit. And this was, by the way, this was one of the nicest guys I've ever talked to. 10 years in jail, man.
That's crazy. Did he teach you the recipe?
I tried to get it out of him. He was like, yeah, I was just cooking meth, man. I was so stupid. I'm like, well, how do you cook meth? And he's like, oh, I just put some stuff in a bottle and he shakes it or something like that. And I'm like, man, I do not want to know that because I would love to try meth. What about y'all? Would you try meth?
No. We actually
don't lie. Hey, don't lie.
That sounds like the way downhill. Like that's like there's no coming back if you
That's
smoke meth.
the gateway.
That's it. Like if you smoke meth, that's it. I don't know how you can stop.
Okay, no, that's a good point. I wouldn't do it either because of the addiction. Let's just say that you could experience the high with zero addiction. You wake up the next day, no cravings, promise, snap of a finger. Would you try meth?
I would try, yeah.
Yes, I'll try it now.
Yes.
I'll try it out. No,
we got a friend that's he graduated as a chemical engineer, and the whole time he's going to school, I was like, are you doing this to learn how to make meth? And then he didn't, and he actually drives an Uber. So much for that chemical engineer.
Stay in school, guys.
Yeah.
Do y'all know a lot of people
College
like that?
is the
Man,
way.
'Cause I've heard this same story so many times. It's like, hey, I got a master's degree in XYZ and I'm working at the supermarket.
So I work picking up garbage. Like that's my job. I'm a sanitation worker, right?
Do you like it?
I love it. It's one of the I think it's the best job in the city.
Fuck
You feel good. It's like exercise. You have a sense of accomplishment because you've actually done something. There's like a beginning and an end. You know, the guys
it's the
I work
only
with,
girl. It's the only manly job that women are like. He's probably smelly, but he's because he's close enough to manliness.
Yeah. And then the guys I
Look
work
at
with are
his
so
head.
cool. So my job, we're one of the only jobs in the city that can hire felons, right? So I work with felons, people that go to jail. You know, we have a guy that got offered the job in jail while he was in jail. He took the test before jail, obviously. Because they offered him a job, he went to the court, whatever, and said, hey, look, they offered me a job. And then they gave him parole and they sent him straight to work. So fresh out of jail, straight to work. And then, I think he's still actually on probation. So I work with those kind of guys, and I work with guys that have college degrees. There's a few guys that I work with that were actually teachers in school. And they decided to leave and become sanitation workers because the work is easier. You don't got to deal with these kids. You know what I'm saying? They get paid more. We actually
the kids are that bad, dude.
The kids are bad, yeah. Every single person I spoke to that's either worked in the schools, a teacher, a para, whatever, they all say the same thing. This kids, if it wasn't for the kids, they would just keep the job. The kids are bad. Yeah, it's the parents, man. Wow. They gotta be the parents.
What else could it be?
Yo, can I ask you a question? Okay, as a guy, I've been in New York City 2-3 times. Love the city. But everyone says the same thing, and I gotta admit, it's partially true. Why does New York City stink all the time?
It depends the neighborhood. Because if you go to a good neighborhood, the people actually clean the front of their buildings or their houses. If you make a spill of garbage, it's such an eyesore. You have to clean it up. You can't just leave it there. It's obvious.
I could take you to neighborhoods, right? Borders of different neighborhoods that you would be like, okay, this is what I imagine New York to smell like and look like. And then we could walk another 1,000 feet and you would say, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. It becomes instantly it's different. Yeah.
I'm in the suburbs. This feels like I'm in some rural area in Ohio. And then you'll walk a few more blocks and you're like, oh, now we're in Chinatown.
Yeah.
What the fuck just happened?
So Chinatown's a good one. Chinatown, their garbage is very oily because of the kind of garbage of whatever food they eat.
Oh, and the smells.
So the smell is different.
It's not just sight. You're smelling something different in each of these different blocks that you're walking through. And it's, quite honestly, it's interesting because we grew up in public school, right? And I remember, I compare it to that because you have your table with the Mexicans, you got your whites, you got your blacks, you got the cool kids that are a little bit mix of everything, but they're the super cool. You got the pretty girls that nobody dares approach. So in society, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
Especially here in New York City, you have your neighborhoods, and within your neighborhoods, you have 3 different cultures, and you feel like you're in different. I'm in India now for no reason.
Literally like a block difference.
Literally,
it's crazy.
Like, And when you're driving, it's so fast, the difference.
Yeah,
You don't
instantly, all of a sudden, all the store signs are in Chinese. And then you go a little bit further down, they're all in Russian. You're like, okay, I'm in this neighborhood now.
Yeah, so it's because the cultures are so different, like you mentioned with the Chinese and how they cook, you'll have different smells for every different neighborhood.
Yeah. And then like I work at, specifically, it's just dirty. The whole neighborhood's dirty. Nobody cares. I've seen people drink and throw their can on the floor. And I don't know if it's me, but that feels almost unheard of. It's like, why would you do that? You live here, you know?
Yeah.
And it also feels like an asshole thing. Yeah, it's poor. It's poor.
It's crazy
but the property value is high.
I live in a nicer neighborhood. So
well, but this neighborhood used to be real ghetto back in the day.
It was very fun. Now that it's not, when I'm in the ghetto neighborhood though, I'm like, I live in Brooklyn. I'm like, I'm ready to throw garbage when it's like in the ghetto area. I'm like, throw the garbage in the floor. Someone's gonna pick it up. But when I'm in my neighborhood, I'm like, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, it's too clean over here.
It's too clean.
And I think that's what it comes down to. If it looks like crap, people treat it like crap. If it looks good, people treat it good. And I think that goes. You like you said, each neighborhood you're gonna feel the difference.
Yeah.
Certain neighborhoods they like to stick together. They take care of it. Other neighborhoods nobody cares.
Yeah.
Well, they had that study though that you break one window on the block, and then it like in like a very short amount of time, there's a bunch of broken windows, right? Because that one broken window, everyone feels like fuck it.
So that's it's funny. So like I don't really. If you want to, we could. But Giuliani used that as an example for it's called the broken window policy. It's like he would start enforcing laws to people that own property, saying, hey, look, if you don't take care of your building, even if it's abandoned, I don't care, you own it, you have to board up the windows. You can't let addicts sleep in there. You have to if there's broken windows, you got to seal it off. If there's mess in front of your building, you have to clean it up. And he kind of enforced that, which kind of also led into the stop and frisk thing that happened in New York City. It kind of led into that as well. Because he said, if there's a reason why we should check you, we should check you. If we give a reason, whatever the reason is, we can make, I smell weed. That happened to me. That happened to me. They stopped. They're like, I smell weed.
Oh, yeah, when you got stopped in the
car.
car.
What are you talking about? I don't even smoke. But,
Well, what did they do? They went through your pockets?
No, I was in my car, actually. I was parked in the car. I was waiting for one of my kids to come out. And they pulled up behind me. They knocked on the window. I knew it was cops because I can see the badge on their shirt. Like they were wearing very plain clothes. But they had it hanging down.
Undercover.
And then he's like, hey, what are you doing here? And I told him, waiting for my son. He goes, I smell weed. I need you to step out your vehicle. And I was like, I don't smoke weed. He's like, step out. So as soon as he said step out, I have a dash cam. So I kind of grabbed the dash cam and I turned it to face inside the car. And I got out. And as I'm talking to the guy in the back, I can look at the guy. He kind of noticed the dash and he got out. He's like, all right, there's nothing. Let's go. And they just left.
The dash cam saved your life for him plotting.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And planting some weed in your car.
Yeah.
Well, what do y'all think about that? Do y'all think that's a good idea, the stop and frisk stuff, or you think that's bullshit?
I'm kind of on the fence with it because it feels like, first of all, I don't want nobody checking me for no reason at all. But I also understand that they catch people all the time. I remember being a kid, and back in the day, I'm a good guy now, I guess. But back in the day, we used to have things on us or do things that's like, man, if a cop stops me, I'm in big trouble, And then as an adult, you look at your kids and you're like, man, I kind of want this neighborhood cleaned. These bad things going on, all these people out here. Like, I wish the cops would come over here and clean up in here. So, I feel comfortable.
Right, because you're going to catch something if you're putting this policy that you could stop anyone for whatever, reason.
But I also don't want them to just randomly search people. But again, that's why they say, I smell weed. That's their reason. I smell weed. And technically it's illegal. So now I have, when it's time for us to go to court, I can say, Judge, I smelled marijuana, and that was the reason why I searched them. And that's the reason why I found, whatever drugs or guns on this kid. you know, which I get it. But I just feel like it's such an easy lie, you know?
Yeah.
But again, like those people that you see on the corner with their pants hanging down and smoking weed, they're the ones that have the stuff on them, you know, that you want out of the neighborhood so you can feel comfortable letting your children out there.
Yeah.
You know, which I
But
get
the good criminals are who's getting screwed, right? Imagine if like you a good like you are good at your damn job, right? You're like, listen, look, I got $200 worth of cocaine. I'm gonna sell it for $400 today. I'm gonna feed my kids. And imagine, look, I got on a suit. My shit isn't sagging. I'm not tatted up, but I got a little coke on me. I look like a damn businessman. I work on Wall Street. And this, you know, police officer comes up, bullshit, I smell weed, empty your pockets, like, damn, he done caught me. But it is, like you said, it's a hard line. It's weird because as a criminal, look, I can do all kind of criminal shit. I can have 5 guns in my pockets, right? And cops, you can't do nothing about it. So this thing, it kind of does, I think more so if I was a criminal, I would be intimidated, be like, damn. Like, we need to find a different way to stash our shit. Like, we need to hide it in the garbage can around the corner or something like that.
The drugs is one thing.
But also think about it like this. If they're selling coke in my neighborhood, somebody in my neighborhood is buying it.
Yep.
Which we don't know who's buying it. We don't know if they're a functional addict because we've seen that in our lives. Some of them are real close to me. Some of them are real close to me. And then you have addicts that just have no control. And they literally sell everything in their home to get that. So it's kind of like, it's, you know, I don't care if people do drugs. I got to be honest. That's their business. They do whatever they want. But, you know, there's a consequence to a few things.
I did not inhale. No, it's like this, right? You're not supposed to pour it. Somebody's making it. Somebody's buying it.
Yeah.
Somebody's selling it. But what I think they're really after here with my discussion with like law enforcement and stuff. I have family. Shout out to y'all niggas. They're looking for guns.
Yeah, that's
they're hard on is for guns because that's what gives them their bonuses. They have the little blackboard where they put the star.
Who found the most guns?
This guy got 5 guns this month. We're giving him, you know, that's what gets them. If you're getting guns off the streets, that's the drugs is like, that's cute. Yeah. Thanks.
Drugs are easy. Everybody does drugs.
But because they're not really doing a job in stopping it, like the war on drugs, because they're not really, in my opinion, they're not really making an effort to stop the maker, the importer. They're not going there. To them, they need that excuse to go in and see if you have a weapon.
Yeah.
Because,
but I also think we should all be able to. It should be easier for a lawful person to get a gun in New York.
Yeah, no, I mean that's our constitution.
I think that's the hard thing in New York, is that nobody's allowed to have it, but the criminals are going to have them anyway. So it's kind of like, see, that you're putting me at a disadvantage.
With all of this shit, right? All of these police departments do the same thing. I don't know how it is over there specifically, but I know where I've lived and in some places, the cops are everywhere. And you're right, they're after guns, they're after all of this shit, but they're never in the hood. The cops aren't in the hood. The cops are scared to police the hood. So they want to go police the suburbs and kind of like around the hood to where people from the hood kind of walk away and like, we got you now. It's like, hey, you want to do crime? It's not hard to find crime. Plot it on the goddamn map. Where are the guns at? Most likely on the map. Go in the hood. That's where you need to be. Is it like that over there? Like, are the poorest, most crime-ridden places where the most cops are? Or is it in the most expensive, rich neighborhoods?
So it's interesting because it's definitely a tool that's been used, and it's politically driven. It's politically driven. It's I don't know what the other word I want to use, but I feel like there is another word. What I've noticed is that there's just one particular neighborhood that wouldn't have any cops around. Shootouts every other weekend or whatever the case may be. I was in the neighborhood for a few years, and now, or for several years now, I want to say 2 years. Excuse me. For 2 years now, they have. Thank you. For 2 years now, they have a pit van, freaking 2 vehicles patrolling the area. So it's like, why weren't you doing this 3 years ago? Oh, it's because it was a different administration.
I was about to say there's a new commissioner.
There's a different administration involved. So
Explain the logic to me, please. Why does that matter? The administration.
They want to get
my camera a little bit.
They want to get voted in again, so they do different things than the last administration. You know,
But how does that even add up? It's like, hey, vote for me. I'll take the cops out your hood.
so I see. Okay, so I'll give you an example with at least with sanitation. They did this whole thing where they were trying to get rid of as much rats as they could. So they kind of made a law saying, hey, you can no longer put these bags in front of your building. You now have to put it in a can. Because in New York, there's just so many buildings. If you put cans with garbage in it, it'll literally flood the whole block. Because there's just too many people. So what they do is they make piles of bags. So when there's piles of bags and you leave it there for, a couple hours, rats are going to start showing up and eating it. So they say if the building has between 1 and 9 apartments, you have to keep it in a can. Anything more than that, you can put it in bags, but it has to be after a certain time. And they push the time later to like 8 o'clock or something like at night. So they did that. We, working in sanitation, know none of that matters. Because as soon as you put the bag down, right next to the bag, there's a hole in the ground with the rats. They're literally going to come within the first few minutes. The rats know. Rats are actually smart animals. So we know there's not going to be no real difference. The difference is going to be negligible at most. They've been doing this for at least a year. And I just funny, we were just talking about it too, is that, and now you mean you, but like one of the guys at work, they put out a report that said the reports of rats in infested neighborhoods has went down 1.6%.
Oh, shit.
Which is nothing. 1.6% is nothing.
In the whole city?
In the whole city.
That's bullshit.
Exactly. So they did this whole policy. So now what she could now, but this is her. The reason why I'm saying this is because now when it's time for her to be reelected or whatever, she can say, "I brought down the rat population in New York City."
Right.
That's it.
She
doesn't have to say 1.6. Her competitor, if he knows that, he'll say it. Like that's a joke.
Yeah, you only did 1%.
But she still can say it, and she could put it on flyers, and she could make phone calls saying, "I've reduced the rat population in New York City."
She's exaggerating.
Yeah. So that's what they do. What's going to happen is this administration puts the police in front of this bad neighborhood, and they're going to we've increased police presence in high crime neighborhoods. That's it. Are they doing anything? No, they're just hanging around. You see them. They're in their van most of the time. I don't know. I think you're talking about Stapleton, right?
Yeah.
They just,
Shout out to Stapleton, motherfucker.
Wu-Tang, baby. So when I drive through that neighborhood, every time I drive past it, the cops are always within. There's like a fence they put. I don't know if you've seen it. They're always there.
This is our area. Don't enter here.
They don't walk in the projects. They're across the street and they're just hanging out there.
That's it.
That's all they're doing.
It's a deterrent.
It's just a deterrent. Yeah.
It's posturing, right? It's posturing.
Exactly.
Saying,
that's another word.
Hey, y'all have a problem with rats? Look, I'm going to do something. Like I'm doing something. And then especially since most of the people don't work in sanitation like you do, that's bullshit, right? So only people who work in sanitation know that's bullshit, but most of the population is like, yeah, that's a good idea, right?
Yeah, she's helpful.
Kind of posturing. Yeah, it's like, hey, and by the way, we do this all the time. Like we can't. Like this is an old ass trick like we do with our girls. Our girls like, oh, you need to be nicer to me. You need to be nicer to me. And so you're like, oh, fuck, man.
At least with police enforcement, it's kind of like a roller coaster every few years. So they're like, okay, this neighborhood's bad. We need to increase police presence. And so what the cops do, what cops do, they catch criminals, they arrest people, and then now people start crying, hey, they're arresting us, they're targeting us.
So then the cops leave.
They're arresting more black and brown people than anybody else, and the cops are like, well, that's where the crime's at. What do you want us to do? So then they're going to like, all right, we'll take the police out of there then, because that's what you said. You don't want that, right? Okay, we'll take them out. Now the crime skyrockets. And then they start saying, hey, we need more police presence. And it just goes up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
And that's what, over the years, you see it more and more. You're like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's a good.
Isn't the real solution to like give these people some shit to do to bring them out of poverty?
Well, that's what you would think, right? But so there's this is just me saying that there's like
name a rich neighborhood with drive-by shootings every day. Name one.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. They own their neighborhood, so they feel a sense of responsibility towards it. In the projects, they don't own that. They don't care. They throw garbage on the floor. It means nothing to them.
Right,
you know
there's a difference between a homeowner trying to take care of his or her own versus someone who's renting.
Yeah,
taking care of something that's not theirs. They're just here.
And honestly, most of those people don't even rent. They're getting paid to live there by the government. The government's paying their rent. Yeah, it's called Section 8. They live there basically for free, right? They actually make money.
Right, and then there's also affordable housing,
Yeah.
which goes off of your income. So if you make X amount, there's a percentage that goes towards that. That's how they allocate what your rent is. So there's those individuals. But you're right. The mindset of not earning something is that you're not appreciative of it.
And then, so there's a thing that happens. We see this all the time, where it's like, okay, if you live in a Section 8 apartment, you have to prove to the government, hey, I don't make any money for whatever reason, right? So I can't have a job, because if I have a job, then the government knows I'm making money, and they're gonna take away them paying rent. They're gonna take that away from me, and now I gotta pay my own rent
for that program.
Now I gotta pay my own rent. So I don't want to pay my own rent. So I'm gonna make sure I stay under this line,
this bracket.
So what happens is, and then
think about that mentality.
Yeah, like I don't want to do better for myself because I will lose my free rent. So I'm going to make sure I stay under the radar. Now, what happens is they pass that mentality to the next generation. And you see this a lot with people talk. You see this, I've actually seen this on TikTok a lot, where they're saying, hey, I'm going to inherit my mother's apartment or my grandmother's apartment, so I can't work. So I'm going to stay in the projects with my kids, so third, fourth generation down. We're not going to work, and we're going to stay under this bar of how much money we can make. So it's almost like they lock themselves up. There's a guy, I forgot his name, Thomas Sowell, I think his name is. He basically made this analogy where the women are married to the government. So back in the day, they would marry a man. The man will come into the home, he'll work, provide for the family, and then we work our way up out of this hole that we're in. But because they're married to the government, they can't have a man. They can't be married, because if they're married, then their husband's income counts as theirs. So they can't be married. Now, if they have kids, now they need help by the government, because now I have kids and I have no man. So the government, they help them. Then then the guy has to pay child support. It becomes this whole thing. But it's like a vicious cycle where it's like people, I don't know if they know how, and then also, again, we're going back to what we kind of talked about earlier with the kids, the way they behave and stuff. They kind of get stuck in this place where it's like, how do we get out of here with, not just barely, because we can't work at Staples and make enough money to move out. There's no way. We need to get a real good job, but because we're doing so bad in school, or the school system is bad, we can't really get out of it.
Yeah, the question is, how do I get out of this mentality?
Yeah,
and I've worked in home care, for example, and I would have these care providers, caregivers that go out and take care of your grandma or your uncle who's elderly, or has a long-term disability, and they would reach out to the HR department and say, or they'll reach out to their supervisor and say, I can't work 40 hours because then they're going to take away my benefits.
Yeah.
I need to work less.
Yeah. There's a guy I just spoke to yesterday. He was like, I can't work more than 15 hours a week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll take away my benefits.
They'll take away my benefits. So the incentive here is to do less.
Yeah.
Another, we said this before, the reverse of this I think of is, you want me to be a doctor, you want me to be a lawyer, I become those things and I'm in debt for most of my life trying to pay that back.
Yeah.
Why would I want to be a doctor? Yeah. Why would I want to progress or learn or do something that's going to financially put me in a good place if I'm just going to spend most of my time paying whatever back? So I think our perspective is jacked up. I also think that when we ask these questions about what do we do, honestly, I got involved with like this community's local board, and it went shit out of hill. It's like destroyed. It didn't come to fruition for various different reasons.
They stopped doing the thing.
Yeah, it became some crazy thing where they didn't want to have leaders. But the people who were complaining they didn't want to have leaders ended up being the leaders. Communists. Of themselves. That's like 3 people.
That's the communism.
That's like a communism mentality in a socialist front or persona.
Could you explain that a little bit more? I don't quite. So there were some people who didn't want to be leaders and then magically they woke up as leaders? I don't understand.
Because what ended up happening is there was a group of, they started off with like 30, 40 people deep. And it went... And it was going great, whatever. And they were trying to become more organized and start this community, neighborhood, whatever, committee, association. And a various group of people were like, we need to have a board elected officials that get voted in, and we need structure, and we need, and it became this thing where like, oh, this guy's trying to run like a dictatorship here and trying to where his goal was saying, no, I want to establish order. Listen, let's put a temporary, group of people who in the interim period of voting and setting up this thing, this committee, and it got pushed back by certain individuals. The individuals that it got pushed back, kept pushing it back and saying, inclusivity, we want to have this, right now there are other things to focus on. And slowly all numbers started dwindling, that the only people that were left were the individuals that were pushing back towards establishing this forum, a committee, elected officials, getting bylaws and getting all these things set up.
And it's crazy because everybody that was there, those 30 people that started, they all joined it because they wanted change in the neighborhood.
They wanted change. They were like,
they couldn't even keep it together.
They could not keep it together, to the point where the only people that were left were the people who were fighting for.
And you were there for the lulz. I
was there to sell weed. I was trying to become a drug dealer. No, I was trying to ruin the neighborhood. No, so I got weed. You guys, okay, you guys are fighting. No, so it ended up being a committee of just 3 or 4 people, and I ran into one of the other guys, one of the main guy that was like, no, we need to vote. There needs to be leadership. There needs to be accountability. We need to be able to go to certain people that are in charge of certain things. Like, what we were saying was absolutely correct. I ran into him the other day. He was like, yeah, it's just like 3 of them left. And I was like, yeah, I'm still dealing with my thing with my apartment. He was like, well, you fix that because I have a feeling we're going to come back and regroup and really get this thing going. Those guys are dying out. And I'm like, I love it. This is... So what I bring this up
it's
because
politics,
it's politics. But when people ask me about these bring up these conspiracy theories about what the government is doing or not doing, I think to myself, it really is true. When you get involved in your local community, in our meetings, the local congresswoman, and then I see her on TV, I'm like, oh, that's who that bitch is. All right, let's go. And she would show up. She would know when our meetings are, and she would say what she was working on. I was like, this is the person we go to make change once we agree what the changes are. And I'm like, okay, I knew about it, but I was actually experiencing it happen. I'm like, that's how you do it. Everyone wants the government to solve the problem. The president wants to solve everything. No, that's not the way it works. Work on what you're doing, where the idea of not throwing litter in your own block. Stop worrying about other neighborhoods' block, working on your block first, and then you're the example to set moving forward of what not to do or what to do or how to govern correctly.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying in the beginning, where I was kind of like, I'm not going to be president, but at least the thing I could do is teach my kids to leave the world better than when they found it. At least. Yeah. So nobody wants to do that. They don't want change to be like, hey, I'm trying to be the president, and if I don't become president, then it's done. And just whatever, it doesn't matter. At least, like, bro, I'm not going to become president. I know I'm not going to become president because I'm not going to run, first of all. But at least if I teach my kids to not throw stuff on the floor, then at least my little neighborhood, my house,
or wherever he decides to live,
he's not going to leave a mess.
Yeah. He's gonna clean up after himself.
And if everybody does that, it'll be a big change in the world.
At the least, at least smile when you're in goddamn public, or at least maybe be kind to your person bagging your groceries. Or also too, can we just all get healthy too? That's another one. Like that's the thing with me. I hear lots of issues going on in the world and shit like that. And every day you turn on the TV, even if it's a cartoon, people are trying to get you to care about something out there. And I'm like, I'm not saying I don't care about this shit, but what I am saying is that I would rather be in better shape, have better health. I'd rather be a better friend. I'd rather be a better husband. Like, all of those things rank really high to me, and I suck at most of them. And then maybe after I get all of that shit taken care of, then I'll be like, all right, cool. What's going on in the country? But until then, I'm good. I'm just trying to work out every day, damn it.
Yeah. At least again, like just like you're saying, when you start exercising, other people see it and they're like, man, I want to exercise too.
Yeah, it's contagious.
Yeah, it's contagious. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I was just working out with Dave. You know Dave? He went to the gym with me.
Jimenez.
Yeah. He has like a physical disability, sort of. So he kind of stood away from the gym. But because a few of us were talking about it, he's like, I want to give it a shot. and he came to the gym and he worked out. He did what he could, you know, which is great.
Exactly.
I mean,
Whatever you can, even if you just walk on the treadmill, right? I think based on social media, people think that they're getting judged at the gym, but only assholes judge people at the gym.
Yeah. Those people were raised right.
Yeah, you don't want to be those niggas' friends, anyways. What I was live last night, and the last few nights, talking up this theme kept coming up, and I kept bringing it up as well because I wanted to get people's opinion. The idea that I saw a post of a cartoon of a little girl on her feet up on the desk and she's on the phone, and the caption read, actually I saved it on Reddit. It read that this generation is more knowledgeable than the baby boomers and millennials combined. Millennials. Thanks for pointing my GED out. So I completely agree. If you think about the baby boomers and millennials, what they had access to as far as information and knowledge, compared to the generation that's receiving it now, in my opinion, I agree with the statement that this generation, and it'll continue happening, where they're more enlightened to knowledge. Immediately I get opposition that no, they're not. They're a bunch of idiots, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think they knew more at 9 years old than I knew at 9 years old.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because of this cell phone thing. What they decide to do with that knowledge is questionable. We could go into that debate, but I don't think it's logical. It's a logical conclusion, rather, to... they definitely have more information than we do. And it's only going to continue progressing.
And it kind of feeds into the notion where it's like, you don't really need college for most things.
That's
I think
true.
most things you don't need college for. Maybe as a doctor or a lawyer, where there's a lot of background information you need to kind of do your job, or maybe like an engineer where you kind of got to learn things. But bro, to be HR, you need a college degree. What do you think?
No, man. Hey, could y'all enlighten me on this phenomenon that I see? And you just kind of touched on it a little bit. It seems like every generation shits on the generation below it. In fact, every generation below it, right? The baby boomers, right? My parents, a baby boomer. They love calling me soft every single time. In fact, they're creative with it. Like, they find new ways to call me soft. Like, oh, you're wearing flip-flops, huh? It's like, what the fuck is this? This is so weird. I love the younger generation. I love the new slangs. No cap. Give me the Riz. Put me on TikTok, baby. Like, I think they're creative. They're cool. They have flaws. They have strengths. But why do you think every single older generation, like, it's one of their favorite hobbies to shit on everyone younger?
I don't know. I wonder if it's because they've been through things and they're looking at us like, I did that before and you wasted your time.
So I think
the other thing too is, and I'm sorry to cut you off. The other thing too, right? It is kind of a fact that every new generation is softer than the prior one, right? We had the greatest generation ever that stormed the goddamn beaches in World War II, right? The generation. Normandy. Yeah, thank you. I didn't know where it was. The generation after is a little bit softer. Generation after is a little bit softer, right? Because now, guess what? We buy shit by touching something on our phone. We're a little bit softer. So you are softer than your parents' generation, and your parents' generation is softer than the previous one. So this is just kind of natural. But why do we love to shit on these people? Like, let's lift these people up, man. Like, this is the youth.
I think it's because exactly what you said. That's obviously the main answer. But I think the mindset is that they perceive us, the generation prior perceives us as soft because we're exactly that. To them, we're life is easier because of these technologies, and it continues happening. My question is, does it stop? Do we ever stop evolving into a better version of how to live this life thing? If robots are going to be wiping our asses, how soft are those niggas compared to our grandparents?
Yeah. My grandparents are going to be like, I'm going to tell my great-grandkids, I used to have to wipe my own ass.
That's what I'm saying.
They'd be like, ew, grandpa.
You touched yourself?
Yep.
Oh, my
I didn't have a button on the toilet.
And everybody knew the paper towel over, not under.
Is there a tipping point, is what you're saying? Because I think I've heard some people articulate this, that we're at the tipping point where people are getting so soft, right? We're just as soft as the prior generation, but we're at the tipping point where people are so, and soft is a bad word, but just call us soft. We know what it is, where, hey, depression is skyrocketing. Like, it's not sustainable anymore. The softness cannot continue. We're not having babies. The population is going to decline. The softness is now having effects that are actually fucking society. And I've heard some people say that, and it's kind of a compelling argument because you are seeing like lots of shit, depression up, suicide up. Why? You don't even have to go to the store anymore. You have running water. Like, shit was way harder 80 years ago, but now like everybody's just sitting around. They're lazy. They don't want to have kids. They don't want to get jobs. So I wonder, are we witnessing the tipping point? Is this going to be a chapter in a history book 80 years from now called The Tipping Point, The Softness of America?
I think that, there was a Netflix series, I think it's called The Project or something, or maybe it's not called that, but maybe you guys saw the preview to it, where back in the 90s, they would take kids to, what was it, like boot camps? Turned out that they were abusing the shit out of these kids.
Oh, yeah, I seen it.
So, they would have these programs. You have a troubled kid, send them to us and we'll set them straight. And they basically kidnap your kid and terrorize them. I think that it would be good to bring that back, but in a form, not to abuse the kids.
Nah, you said it already. Still
you're adding words in my mouth. You're gaslighting me. No, take a bunch of kids, friends, whatever. Maybe a week or two, take the whole classroom, every classroom, they go out to a camp, and they have no cell phones. They're in a neighborhood where they have to go to the store and get their food.
Like an old school neighborhood?
Like where we used, take a whole town.
1950s.
Yo, and then let them give them quarters and a bunch of payphones.
That would be a fun, like, what are they called? Like a reality show?
Yeah.
Put them there for like 2 months. And just have them live life and see what they do.
The way that, like, the 80s kids grew up, where the 70s kids grew up with quarters.
Take our idea, Netflix.
And having to take our idea. Go ahead. You know what I mean? To have them experience what it means to, like, socialize without the cell phone. Yeah. I think that would be a good way to sort of reset the box in perspective. But where do we go from here, and where's the tipping point? I don't think there is one.
Well, there's a quote by Michael Hoff. I was trying to find it as you guys were talking. It says, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And weak men create hard times. And it's just a cycle that goes over. And I think we're at the point now where it's where we're at weak men creating hard times. I think we're here.
Weak men creating hard times.
Yeah, I think that's where. There's a book I read called The Fourth Turning. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No.
I gotta send it to you. At least a video link of
what is it called?
The Fourth Turning.
I think I've heard of it.
And he kind of describes it that there's these the sections of history that break down every like 20 or 30 years.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Basically like a lifetime, and they're in cycles of 4s. And so the example he gives is like there was a Revolutionary War, and then right after that there was World War I, or World War II, or something like that. Then there was a Vietnam War, and he goes, there's these cycles of people that grow. And they have a good time. There's like an artistic generation, like the 60s was the artistic generation. Then there's like a generation of like psychics or future. I forgot how we described it. That they kind of see the future and they prepare the world for the future. And that was like Steve Jobs' generation, the guy from Microsoft. They were all born in the same year, believe it or not. Bill Gates. And then he's like, then. He does a way better job of explaining it than I do. But anyway, the point is that we're at a point now where there should be the next generation to come should lead us into a really hard time in history. And now, not like some prophecy, but there's like things going on in the world.
Oh no, I
where
would
people
agree.
are fighting and arguing. Like the guy that set himself on fire, like Free Palestine.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of pushing us toward the edge of saying, hey, we want to join these guys that are kind of sketchy. Like we'd rather be on their side because they're an oppressed class, rather than saying, hey, almost like we were talking about stop and frisk, where it says like, oh, they're arresting the black and brown, high rates, and they're like, if you want us to leave, we'll leave, but now you're gonna have a hard time after we leave. because the crime rate's going to skyrocket if that's what you want. You know, unfortunately, those are the consequences of us keeping law and order. You know, the consequences that sometimes, you know, sometimes there's mistakes, or sometimes there's assholes that work there, or sometimes, you know, bad things happen. But for most of society, we kind of keep everything in check, you know?
So you think, like, your prediction, or kind of based on that cycle, that we're about to go into the hard time right now, and
we're actually overdue for the hard time.
And then what happens after that? It resets?
So once the hard time comes,
what's the next one?
It becomes peaceful. And then the generation that's raised within peace makes art. There's an artful generation that gets raised. But the book describes sort of the mixture of all these generations. So like the hard time generation guy is this other guy's grandfather. So
how they connect.
He explains the relationship,
the transition in the relationship.
Yeah, and if your grandfather fought in a war and you think back to how he was, very stern, not very emotional, like you kind of see where he's explaining it and why certain things are certain ways. And it's a very, I think it's a very interesting book.
I wonder what is the hard time? What do you think? Like, predict what the hard times are going to look like here in America, right? Because we have a pretty fucking posh lifestyle.
I don't think we're going to experience as hard as the rest of the world.
And I think that we're the last generation that's enjoying that posh statement.
Yeah. So there's a guy.
Well,
go ahead.
What's going to happen though? Like, give me concrete examples, because if anything, like, we seem to be sensitive. For example, I think COVID exposed us to everybody, right? COVID happened, and your neighbor, who was your best friend, was now looking at you like, bitch, don't come on my lawn, or I will shoot you. The social fabric broke down real fast. Yeah. People were buying toilet paper, and everyone was like, oh shit, I gotta get some toilet paper. So just something so small like that seemed to fluster us. Yeah. So what will it look like? What will the...
In America, that's a joke. Like, our hard times, I'd rather have a hard time in America than have a hard time anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hard times in America are a joke. We're not going to do so bad. Even if there's a war, America would be pretty fine. There's an author, Peter Zeihan, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called The End of the World is Just the Beginning.
Yeah.
And he kind of explains how the United States is kind of like in a really good zone as far as the world is concerned. We don't have any major superpowers to worry about on our side of the world. If any of the major superpowers want to attack us, we're going to see them coming a mile away, because we got oceans on both sides. We got Canada and Mexico. Canada's like a wilderness. Right, so they're gonna have a hard time making their way towards us.
And they're not fucking with us.
Yeah. Also, our advancement. There's not many militaries in the world that can exert their military force past their borders.
Texas alone, with what Texas has military-wise, ranks 40th military power in our planet. Texas alone.
Yeah.
40th. So I think. Go ahead, finish.
I was going to say, well, America's in a good position to have a hard time and come out on top.
I agree, especially when you read that book, because he breaks down basically how the whole world could go shit out of bat and we'd
be just fine. Yeah, I mean, think about World War II.
We'll actually have to work and mow our own lawns, but
yeah, World War II. They attacked Pearl Harbor because it's so far away from us. Number one, and also, I don't know if you know, the Hawaii wasn't a state at the time. They weren't a part of the United States technically. They were so far away from us, and they sneak attacked us. Now, with our modern technology, there's no more sneak attack. Those days are gone. You know, if you look at what happened between Iran and Israel, Iran shot a bunch of missiles towards Israel. It took like an hour for those missiles to get there, from Iran to Israel. So Israel kind of was like, well, okay, turn everything on, you know, get everything ready. They shot down like 90% of the missiles that came towards them. You know what I'm saying? Now that's Iran and Israel, which is way closer than America and almost everywhere else in the world. We see people coming from a mile away. You know, a day advance, we know that they're coming.
To answer your question, we're already seeing the decay and the reset starting to occur, right? We see it because everything that comes out in the news is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
We're not trusting each other, our government, much less, more and more. The COVID advanced that notion of mistrust, where I think that even if we didn't have COVID, it would still have happened, where people are doing, you know, we're like ants looking at our phones. So, you know, COVID being isolated just advances mistrust, and the mistrust starts with the government, our local officials, but those are comprised of humans. So we start mistrusting each other, our neighborhoods, our neighbors.
Our hard times is social. rather than physical. It's social and mental. That's our hard times.
Social and mental.
So that's what you were saying. You were framing these hard times as war, but what if it's not war? What if it's famine?
It could
what
be
if
that,
it's
yeah.
depression?
Well,
what if
America,
it's
like
drugs, pandemics?
I think depression is the way.
Oh, so you're saying that? Okay, so you're saying that the way it goes down is through a mental.
Yeah,
Maybe.
we already see the effects, right? More people
I don't know,
on
But
antidepressants.
I think, like you said, we see the effects. We have huge fucking drug problems. We have suicide problems. We see these effects, but like COVID came out of left field. So what if the next hard time just comes out of left field and it's not bombs and guns?
I mean, either way, it's going to be hard. I mean, like I said, America's in a good position. Even during COVID, we kind of did all right, really. I think most of the deaths were because of ventilators. I think it's proven at this point, as far as COVID is concerned. Because when I caught COVID, I got sick for like a day or two, and I think I was fine after that.
I just caught it.
Could you still taste?
Yeah.
Damn.
I was pretty fine after that. Literally like a day or two, it knocked me down. And after that, I was fine. I was like, it was kind of like a really bad cold, like the flu, really bad. Wasn't crazy. I'm asthmatic. And I had hard time breathing. I was fine. My grandmother, she's 80 years old. She caught COVID and didn't even know she had COVID. She just lived her days like normal. She went to go to like a surgery for her knee or something. And they were like, oh, we got to give you a COVID test. She's like, all right, I don't have COVID. They came back positive. They're like, you have COVID. She's like, I didn't even know. They're like, you got to go home. They said, home. So like, I understand some people hit them hard. But as far as I understand, the doctors made a mistake by putting people on ventilators because it really hurt their recovery process and actually killed a lot of people. That's why there was a real hard push for ventilators in the beginning. Then they learned, and then they're like, no, we can't do ventilators. Also, the numbers are kind of inflated because any death that happened with COVID was considered a COVID death because the government was giving money to hospitals that had high COVID rates. So, like, if somebody got shot and they went to the hospital and they died, and they tested them and they had COVID, they'd put COVID, and those would inflate their COVID numbers, and they go to the government and say, hey, look, we have high COVID levels here. The government's like, all right, here goes a check. Here goes another check. You know, there's it's a conspiracy theory within itself.
But because like exactly what you said, I think I caught it twice, and it was just, oh man, my thing was like, oh, I can't work out for the next 2 days or whatever, and I couldn't taste, and I was like, okay, this is over. But everywhere, it was just fucking pandemonium all over TV.
Surprisingly, they say that more people have COVID today than they did back in 2020, and we don't care about it.
Yeah, I think so. When you ask the question, now I'm thinking, well, is the question what's major event? What's the next major event that humanity faces? Besides COVID, the only major event that the United States, let's keep it to the U.S., the only other major event that the United States had that was, nationwide was the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Like, we can't count Pearl Harbor because that was an event that caused another event, but it wasn't something that affected the citizens of the U.S., so profoundly. Right, we went to war. We took care of business. But with the Great Depression, we were done. Like that was.
Well, believe it or not, World War II took us out of that. The Great Depression.
Okay, so exactly, we had
World War One. I think
I think it was World War One. But that's my point.
No, World War II. I'm bugging. Yeah.
Another event had to happen. Another horrible event. You know what I mean? That just proves my point further that the Great Depression was. That, and then COVID would be another one because a lot of people did die, right? And it shut down the country. The ramification of it is going to be felt for a long time. You were just mentioning the kids going into school for the first time, or kids that took a break from school for 2 years, and they're trying to reallocate what the effects of it is going to be long term. So, what's the next major event? I mean, after experiencing those two as America, it would be the World War III.
I think the hardest.
I mean, give me anything at this point.
The hardest thing that America's going to go through is when Donald Trump wins. People are going to be setting themselves on fire.
I'll tell you something. Let me share something with you guys, and then maybe y'all y'all can tell me I'm crazy, or maybe y'all see this too. This is an anecdote in my normal life. There's some weird shit going on in society and people. I don't know quite how to explain it, but I'll tell you my experience. A couple months ago, I got a DoorDash and I pick up the food from the chick. And this chick, she was a clean girl, pretty girl, all that young lady. And she was just overwhelmingly, like enthusiastically saying, "Thank you so much for that. I tipped her $7. I should have tipped her more, to be honest. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it's so hard out here. I'm struggling so much. Everything's so bad." And the look in her eye was disturbing. Like she just won the fucking lotto. I was like, okay, no big deal. That's cool. And over the past like 5 years, really 10 years, but 5, it's gotten bad. I'm driving down the street. Oh, this guy's shitting on the sidewalk. Oh, this lady's butt ass naked in front of a school. I go to, like, just a week ago, I go to the grocery store. I'm like, "Hey man, where's the bathroom at?" He's like, "Oh, we shut it down. We had people doing meth in the bathroom and they were flushing their needles down the toilet. So we had to shut down the public bathroom." This is a nice neighborhood, by the way. I'm not in the ghetto. It's a nice neighborhood. And as like I'm in the gym, oh, there's like homeless people just sitting in the gym. Don't even have a subscription or anything like that. And this seems to be getting like faster and faster. It seems as I talk to people just out and about, my barista, fast food worker, I talk to everybody when I'm out. People have a desperation that I've never sensed before in my life, ever. And there's just like, there seems to be more bullshit coming faster and faster. Oh, now you can't go to the park because it's full of people just doing drugs out in the open next to schools and shit like that. And the past 10 years, it's gone from essentially zero to now like, "Hey, you can't go to this park. Sorry, it's just off limits." Oh, there's no public bathroom in the goddamn grocery store in a nice neighborhood. So what happens 10 years from now? I have no clue. To me, it has to reverse because I'm like, this is an extremely disturbing trend that I'm seeing.
Yeah. I think after this, people straighten up, you know? People start to get harder. Again, bring it back to the way we talked about with the police in the ghetto neighborhood, where people start begging, "Hey, we need more police here." So they start to strengthen the neighborhood more. And again, it's going to be a cycle, just like it is in the rest of the world, over and over again. "Oh, you're policing us too hard now. Let's go back the other way." And I think that's just the flow of society. And I think right now we're at the place where
government can't solve things. So like, what if it's not the government is the solution?
What do you mean?
That what other than the government would resolve these fluctuations in behaviors?
Bro, people, and I think
is it up to the government? Are you serious? It's like, "Hey, listen, hey, Big Daddy, let me suck on that titty, or else I'm gonna die." Is that really what it's gonna be? Maybe I don't know.
I think a problem we have too is that, like you were saying, that they have the most access to information, but they don't know how to process that information. So they're kind of taking the conspiracy theories in with the facts. There's no... What the heck was that? Is it raining out there? Jeez.
That's the wind.
So I think that... If I got scared for a second. I think your window broke, bro.
Yeah, I think the window just caved over.
So I think people are taking the facts in with the conspiracy theories and kind of like mixing them together, so they're getting kind of crazy and loony out there. I think that there needs to be like we understand it. We're kind of a little bit older, so we know, oh, that's BS, bro. Don't listen to that. That's BS. A lot of these kids don't understand that. They don't have that filter that we had growing up, because at least me and him grew up without the internet. So we kind of know when something's not real and when something's real. When you grow up, kind of these kids are like, they get their facts in with their nonsense, and they kind of don't know how to differentiate. You know what I'm saying? And I think that might be leading to some of that mental. I think you're in
left field, dude. I think the fact is I'm a single mother with 3 kids and I can't make enough money. That's the fact. How do I solve that problem? Not this weird stuff like the societal stuff. Yeah, that happens. You're totally right. But the degradation I'm seeing is like, people can't fucking put food on the table. They're doing like weird shit. They're desperate. They're lonely. Like, these are the facts. How do we solve this? Is government the titty we must suck on?
No, I don't think so.
No, and one argument I keep hearing, and it's in my opinion, an ignorant argument, is that they have money machines. Why don't they just print more money?
That's not how it works.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works. I think the root of your question or the topic is that COVID brought out the crazies or the vulnerable or the gullible. They brought out the gullible, the vulnerable, the weaker-minded individuals, to coin that phrase in the topic we had earlier. And those individuals, because they don't have a stronger foundation, whether it was their parents, the system, education, those people were pushed off the edge, being isolated.
Yeah.
And then there was no transition for those individuals back into this. Oh, everybody could go back outside. COVID was not that big of a deal. We're good now. We have all these, whatever. Not to say the V word. I don't want to get striked. But
vagina.
He said it. He said it.
China, you could say a lot, actually. So I think that's what it is. I think that the people who are vulnerable, the crazies, there was no forum for them to step back into like where we're going. And then everybody became a conspiracy theorist because they were sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
You could get alcohol delivered to your crib. You got drunk reading the headlines talking about what's going on with the world. I think that the only solution is those people dying.
Well, I mean, listen.
They're just dying.
There's more. I mean, not just that, but I mean, there's us.
Not
right?
just that. He said, not just that.
It's also us. We're the solution, right? Like, we have to, talk to our fellow man.
Nobody's going to do that.
I mean,
nobody jumped in with that guy who was fucking burning to
Yeah, he was yelling, "Hey, this guy's gonna burn himself! This guy's setting himself on fire."
He looked out for police. He said, "Police, go do it.
But
Government, go do it."
He was looking out for us. Remember?
Right. He's looking out for us because we wanted something to watch.
Because he kept recording, so he was looking out for us. But I think that's what we got to do. I mean, pick one person in your life that's struggling and just help them out a little bit. Talk to them at least.
Somebody personally in your life.
Yeah.
Do you have somebody personally in your life? Go around the room. Do you have somebody in your life personally that
I know mad people that are crazy. Talking about, bro. I just gotta pick one of those people and be like, "Hey, look, get it together." Yo, sometimes it's as easy as just giving somebody a hug or maybe some flowers. I'm just saying.
Hey, wait, let's put the big screen. Flowers.
Yes. Hey. Here you go. Will you stop being crazy, please?
No, but I think if we step out of our comfort zone and love on somebody, I guarantee you. I mean, think about how many people are not crazy versus crazy. We can change the world within a few years. But nobody wants to. I forgot who it is. It's Louis C.K. that has a joke. He's like, these ugly people don't get hugs and they don't have sex with anybody. And people are like, oh, he's like, well, you could change the world right now if you fuck one of them, but you won't. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like that us right now with the crazies. Like, yo, we could stop these crazy people if some of us talk to them,
but we won't.
What were
you gonna say?
Yo, that's such a damn good point, by the way. I really love what you just said because I kind of feel like it's true, especially with the lack of socialization that a lot of us are experiencing. What I try to do two things, and look, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I could be wrong. I probably am. I don't know.
But are you in the room by yourself?
Yes, I am.
Technically, you are.
Yes, I actually am. I'm by myself. I'm lonely. I was just crying. I was like, I can't wait to talk to these guys. But if I talk to, first of all, I'm open, but I talk to anybody. If I talk to someone and I notice that they're good at something, I tell them immediately. Like, for example, I've had podcast guests on my podcast, and they're like, "Oh, I'm nervous about doing a podcast. I'm gonna do it." And some of these people are actually gifted talkers. Not all of them, but the ones that are, I'm like, "Hey, you may be born to do this. Keep fucking doing it." And that could change lives because a lot of people don't get, like, we don't like to tell people good shit. So that really could change life. If someone is good at something, now listen, if there's a beautiful girl, she knows she's pretty, that's different. But like, if I see a barista and he's cutting up at the coffee shop, busting his ass, I'm like, dude, I don't know how much they're paying you, but you need to get paid more. The second thing I do is if I am feeling good financially, I over tip. And I do this because I don't like donating to charity. And whenever I tip someone, there's like a personal experience. It's like, hey, you were just waiting my table. We have a little bit of a friendship and I could tell that you're a good person. So I know my meal was only $50, but here's a $40 tip. And that's what I try to do. But I think you're right. We just kind of need to love on people in several different ways, and just hope that the butterfly wings will flap and the world will be better.
Yeah, man. I think that's where it's at right now. I think we just need to love on each other, and
let's start a move. Go talk to a homeless person today. Everybody, do it.
Give him $10. Don't give him $1. Give him $10
or buy them a meal.
Yeah, buy them. That's what we do. Yeah. I don't give him money anymore. I'll be like, yo, you want something from the store? Yo, one time I asked a guy, yo, you want something from the store? I'm not gonna give you money. He's like, all right. You know what he grabbed? I was like, grab whatever you want. I got you. He grabbed a pack of bread and a can of spaghetti. I was like, that's it? He's like, that's it. We went outside. He opened the bread, started eating it, opened the spaghetti, started eating it with his hands. I was like, bro, what the heck? I could have got you a sandwich. But that's what he wanted. I was like, all right. Yeah, I was like, all right, bet. That's what you want.
Yeah, it's spaghetti sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. That's
true. Yeah, he's like, oh, I got a meal here.
And if I run out of the spaghetti, I still got bread. I think that's a nice sentiment, but you're asking people who are so used to being buried in this to socialize and offer love, a hug. Yeah. To individuals.
If they step out of that phone, that will also help them by learning how to talk to people like we used to do when we were kids. If you saw a pretty girl, how are you going to talk to her? You don't text her. You got to walk up to her.
Yeah.
Right?
Kids don't do that. No, you got to call the landline and her dad picks up. And he's like, hey, is Macy around? Yeah. He's like, who's this?
Yeah. This
is terrifying.
You had to get past that wall. The kids don't deal with that now. They go straight to the person. Let me get your number.
I think that if, the other solution that I really honed to was what you were saying, how I'm not going to change the world. But because I'm better off than when my parents were, I have the opportunity to set up my child to be better off than I was.
Yeah.
So I think that's really where the answer is. If you're a parent and you're seeing all these things and you don't know what to do about it and what happens, your direct impact would be your child.
Yeah.
And it's a double whammy because you're doing it for your child too, because it's their future, it's their little Sims world that they're gonna have to deal with when you're retired with your dick hanging out in the nursing home.
That's what you plan on being?
I can't. I want to have my dick hanging out right now, but I'm not trying to go to jail.
I'm not gonna call the cops.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start our OnlyFans. AI not welcome. No. So I don't know. I think that's the solution I don't think that we individually can make any big change, especially because we had major influencers that changed profoundly the course of society because everyone has access to TikTok and their own podcasts, and we're lacking a great influential leader. And I think that we all need to be that leader to our direct children, and at the very least. Also
too, just to give everybody a reminder, almost all the founding fathers of this country were younger than 40 years old. I think they were I think most of them were in their 20s, and they made this country what it is to what we all live in here today. So don't think that because you're young you can't do something. You know what I'm saying? Because I think we see that like, oh, you're too young to do this, to be a leader in this whatever. It's like, bro, that's the way it should be. The young people are the ones leading the charge. You know what I'm saying? Because they're the ones inheriting the world, not us. We're getting rid of it. We're almost done.
Absolutely. Here. And I think what you were saying also was really, really good. Where it's like, hey, everybody's just kind of in their phone, but maybe it's up to, hey, some OGs like y'all and like me who like to talk to people and to just, hey, spark up a conversation. Because one thing that I have found is that even the younger folks who are just into their phone and maybe aren't that comfortable in a conversation, after you talk to them, they feel great. Like they feel good. Yeah. Like, damn, that was good. You know what I'm saying? So even if they don't tell you face to face, they're like, that was good. Maybe I should try this again.
Also, our nature, and this I've been meaning to get this out as well, our nature of wanting negativity. I'll tell you right now, this podcast sounds pretty positive and it's not going to be going anywhere. But everyone wants that toxicity, that it's like in our nature to want the drama, the tea, the what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, you're more likely
we were just cutting up that stupid video with the guy burning himself and I couldn't even watch the image because I'm like, it's disturbing to me. Yeah. send me that video 10 years ago, I would have been like posting it. I would have been on the train like, look at it. Ah. But now I'm like, I don't want any of that crap in my soul, in my person. People don't, being positive and being, generous and being, it's not popular. It's not. It's not. And I think that's a problem when we literally inherently just want negativity, where that's our entertainment.
Yeah, I think we
all
have
right, come
to
on. Hey, let's
be
start
the change.
fighting, guys. All right,
Let's start some
you,
beef.
You pink Mike bastard! I'm telling you, you're gonna run for president, you bitch.
Yes,
I think we need to be the change we want to see. Right?
Yeah,
so if you
becoming.
want to, do it. If you're like, oh man, I wish somebody would clean this place up. Clean it up, bro. Just get a broom, sweep the hallway of your building. I bet you never did that.
The whole way of my building.
Yeah,
Not this one.
Dang, I think he just insulted you, bro.
Yeah,
Should we
just-
continue fighting?
sweep it. I've vacuumed my hallway in my building
You vacuumed
with
it.
my own vacuum. I just went out there.
Damn.
That's because he brought a new vacuum. He was trying to try it out.
No, because it's just every time I see it, I'm like, this needs to be cleaned up. And the super's old. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not even gonna say anything. But in fact, when it snows, I always wake my kids up and I'm like, yo, go help them shovel the front of the building.
Yeah, that's yeah. I be the change that you
Yeah.
want to see, and if you have children, raise them right. Like, what the hell?
Put an effort. Jeez.
It's sad.
Talk to your kids.
It's sad.
But how do you, because that's the thing now. It's past like, oh, I'm raising my kids. Now it's culture, right? It's culture. It's hey, what, Dad? What are you talking about? Why can't I have an iPhone at 13? All of my friends do. Now you say, okay, no, you're not going to have an iPhone. You're going to be better. Well, now they're getting bullied, right? And that has repercussions too. And it's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to stop bullying. Oh, well, now they're doing drugs too. Like, this stuff is very pervasive. Yeah. So it's an uphill battle, man.
Yeah, I and it's sad because, again, a lot of the parents that I think of in this topic, they weren't given the tools. They didn't have much resources to begin with them growing up. So you can't give what you don't have. So it's again, but I go back to the phrase that each generation is progressing. So maybe it's just a matter of, weeding out the weak-minded.
Yeah.
What's your number one parenting tip?
You got to push it in an effort at least, bro. Put it in an effort, my God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people are just letting their kids do whatever they want. Grab your kid and talk to him for a few minutes.
Best parenting tip, go ahead.
I think that's it. Talk to your kids. Just talk to them.
What happens if they say something that they maybe could get in trouble for? Be like, yeah, Dad, I tried to smoke a cigarette today.
Well, I mean, we also got to reflect on when I was a kid, I did that. So if my kid's like, oh, Dad, I tried a cigarette. I'm like, well, that's not a smart thing to do, obviously. That was dumb. Of course you're going to try it. We all did it. I did it, right?
Yeah.
But now you know what it's like, and it's not very good. And this is what it can lead to. And then you show them, whatever, pictures of like people's lungs or whatever. And you'll be like, that's not the life you want to live. If you want to play basketball, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. You want to do a physical, you want to be a person that's healthy and in shape, you can't smoke cigarettes. You want, what I'm saying? Like, you give them a rundown. Again, you got to give them knowledge that you didn't have at the time. Like I was saying before, you got to kind of set them up to do better than you. So like I learned at a late age something. Now I'm going to make sure they learn earlier so they don't have to deal with that crap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that only comes up if you talk to your kids. Some people hand their kids an iPad and they don't talk to them all day, Sit down with your kid, have dinner with them, When we have, in my house at least, we have dinner, we sit at the table, right? You don't see that too much with people. A lot of people sit in front of the TV. We sit at the table. We probably sit in front of the TV, I think, on Wednesdays. We have like a movie night or whatever. And sometimes on Saturdays. But most of the time we sit at the table. And I always ask my kids the same question. What did you learn in school today? Because they should be able to answer that question if they were paying attention. Right? To the point that my daughter's 2. The other day I was sitting down with her. She wanted to eat cereal. I was like, oh, I'm going to sit down with her and eat some cereal or whatever. So she took her first bite and she goes, Dad, what did you learn today? And I was like, oh, snap, she's paying attention.
That's what she learned the other day.
But, that's also encouraging because I know that, at least one of them is paying attention. So, God willing, when the day comes and she has her own kids, she's going to make sure she interacts with them and doesn't just live with them, but actually interacts with them,
Yeah, one of the things that to answer the question, for as early as I can remember with my son, I would tell him, he wanted to dye his hair put like blonde streaks in it. And I said, you know, those decisions, they're going to be decisions in life that you're going to be making the rest of your life that aren't as big. And right now, I get to make the big decisions in your life, but for only a really short period time. I get to decide, yeah, you're going to go to church with me on Sundays. You know, you're going to go to school. And these decisions that I'm in charge of are so short in your life. My goal is that when you become an adult, when you turn 18, that our relationship changes, that I'm responsible for you to I'm your go-to. If you can't come to me or consider me your best friend when you become an adult, then I failed you as a parent. Because there shouldn't be any obstacle that we couldn't work out.
Yeah.
When you leave your house, when you leave home, the people that loved you and care about you and think about you the most were in that house. And even some of them are going to backstab you.
Yeah.
So remember that going forward. Your best teammates, your number ones are always going to be mom and dad. And that stems, you know, that's where communication falls, and that's the definition of what you're saying. Talk to your kids, explain to them that, you know, they're gonna be an adults real soon and they're gonna make their own decisions in life, but encourage them to be open to share no matter what it is. I still have to be responsible for you. I'm still gonna say what's good and what's wrong and what's a no and what's a yes, but I'm the one that's never gonna like fail you. I'm the one that's always gonna have your back. That would be my advice to your parents, because I grew up learning that from my mom, and she would say our relationship is not the same, but when we become an adult, you're your own adult. You know, I saw her become really good friends with, they still respected her, that's mom, but I saw my older siblings have such a unique relationship when they became adults that I was fiending to become an adult, because I was already close to her. So to me it was like, man, I can't wait to have this different relationship that changes to now I'm responsible for myself. Who do I go to for advice? Who do I go to that I can trust, that will have my back, that I know that there won't be judgment, because this person has to love me, you know? That was my son. You have to love me. But I'm your son. And it's like, of course, who do I go to? Your parents, if you're blessed enough to have, you know, a relationship or have parents in your home. I think that would be my advice to anyone who has a kid.
Yeah. Amen.
Man,
Amen.
Hey, that is beautiful. I think one thing too is, and that's why I asked, like, what if your son comes to you with smoking a cigarette? Because I think that the way you handle that situation as a parent is extremely important. From a young age, whenever I was a kid, my parents were extremely strict. They found me like smoking a cigarette or something like that, and man, I was just punished. They would lecture me. They would tell me like all of this bad shit, like just, you know, treat me like a dog. And so I was like, my takeaway, and listen, I was a bad kid. Okay. I was a conniving motherfucker. My takeaway was, I just need to be more sneaky next time. And that's what I did. And so in their perception, and this was like the age of 10 or something like that. I started smoking cigarettes. In their perception, from the age of 10 to 18, when I left, I was a good kid. That was wrong. I was a sneaky guy. I was sneaking out the house like every single night and doing whatever I wanted. And so to me, it's hard. And maybe I'm unique. Maybe I'm just a bad kid. Like, I don't like authority. And maybe that's true. Maybe most kids wouldn't react like that. But I think as a parent, it's probably important to strike that balance of, hey, you did something wrong. I did the same thing, Johnny, kid. We all do it, but man, I would love if you didn't do it, because man, there are some bad consequences and stuff too. So I feel like that's a really hard balance to strike.
Yeah, I think about myself when I was a kid, what would have benefited me. And just like you said, like, you kind of got to explain to them the consequences, because they're like, just don't do it. That's bad. Don't do it. That doesn't do anything for me. But if you explain the consequences, I'm like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand. Same thing with cigarettes. If you like playing basketball, oh, you're gonna have a hard time if you smoke cigarettes. Oh, okay, now I see why you can't smoke.
Yeah.
You know, now it makes sense. Before, you were just saying no and I have no context. Now my parent is just being strict. No. If I give you a context, you understand it, makes sense to you. Now we can continue. You know?
Speaking of smoking, don't y'all know it's 4:20? I mean, are you stoned right now?
That's you. Man.
I already rolled up. Hey, let's go.
That's a black and white, man.
It is Puerto
You
Rican.
gonna pull out yours?
It's in the bathroom, actually, next to the vent.
Oh, I did see it in there.
When's the last time y'all smoked weed?
This morning.
Yeah, but I haven't smoked in a long time.
This morning.
Are you serious? What's your favorite thing about it, or what's your least favorite? Do you like it?
I hate the smell. I hate what is it? The image behind it? The
Stigma?
The stigma. Thank you. The stigma behind it. Other than that, I'm good with it. I think it's great. I think it's also people are so uneducated with it. It's unbelievable. And I think that with time it'll become what it should be. But I think it's great. I think that I'm praying that the other 3 or 4 states needed to make it federally legal. I think it's just overdue.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
I don't do it myself, but I have no worries if somebody else wants to do it. I gotta be honest. I have a son. He's old. He's older now. If he decided he wanted to smoke, I'd be like, hey, that's on you. You know, I wouldn't do it. These reasons why. I mean, I don't have a real reason why. Really, I just don't want to. Yeah. But I mean, if he wanted to, I got no hate against it.
What about you?
Speaking, I smoke occasionally, but I fucking love it too much. Actually, I'm kind of in the corner of I'm my best self when I'm not smoking because I turn into a fat, lazy piece of shit fast because I don't know how to stop. I'll just smoke all day, every day. I don't know how to moderate it. Speaking of like trust breaking things, right? We talk about, trust is eroding. You want to know one thing that made me distrust like the laws and stuff like that is, hey, alcohol everywhere. Hey, yeah, you drink. You go to a bar, get a drink. It's cheap. Give you a big ass thing where if you drink this whole thing, you'll die. Buy it at Walmart. Go ahead. Yeah. But weed, I've been arrested for possession of marijuana, right? In Southern Louisiana. Like weed was just so demonized. Like I was in programs in school where they would just tell you like how bad this is. But whenever you experience both of them, it's so easy to know which one's worse than the other one, right? Like, you drink, you do wild shit. You murder people. You have the confidence to get in the car. You smoke some weed, you're just hanging out, playing video games, eating Oreos. And so the fact that like my entire childhood, this weed thing was like, okay, guys, there's like, yeah, oh, fuck yeah, the double stuff, baby. My entire childhood is like, it's meth, crack, and then weed. It's like, do not touch that. And then once I got to experience, I was like, oh, that was all a lie.
But then it also puts you in a weird position where it's like, well, if they lied about that, maybe meth isn't too bad.
That's what I said. You know what I mean? That's what we said. Once they screwed up with the CIA putting crack cocaine in the streets.
Yeah, that's it. You can't trust them.
We can't trust them. Yeah. We can't trust any government, any branch. Yeah. They're all lying to us.
But that's why this sounds so bad. I work in Harlem. I've recorded these zombies walking around to show my kids, look, this is what those drugs do to you. So my oldest son, I showed him, he's like, oh no, I'm never touching them. I'm like, bro, trust me. If weed is the furthest you should go, don't go any crazier than that. You know? Do not.
Hey, and I love your approach too, where you're like, hey, you want to play basketball? It's because you find what the kid loves the most. Let's say he loves girls, right? Be like, hey, do you think girls want to date a guy who's walking around like a zombie? Like you use that. That's so smart, man.
Yeah. Again, if it was me, how would I want somebody to tell me?
Yeah.
And I think that's how I approach it. Like I want somebody to be like, yo,
break it down.
Yeah, break it down.
Break it down.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Like we said.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, make it make sense.
That's true.
Yeah, man. But I think what this podcast comes down to is, hey, love on somebody and leave the world better than when you left it. Leave the world better than when you inherited it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
It was good talking to you, Chris. Bang 23 podcasts. We're gonna put the links in the description and everywhere else. And then hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yo, anytime, man. Y'all are some cool ass guys.
All right, brother. Take care, all right?
We out of here.
Peace. You too, man. See you, bro.
Check out this preview of the next episode of GED Squared.
Yeah, would they say they're from New York or not?
I don't know. That's the most I got.
Because
from
I'm
it.
assuming that they probably watched on the news and like, I support Palestine. Let me go too.
Or were they like FBI secret agents going in there to agitate the situation even further? And if they were, would Adams and the administration?
But how does that benefit for FBI? Let's just say that's true. Let's just say the government said FBI jump in there. How does that benefit?